As most of you undoubtedly know by now, CJ Stroud was throwing at Texans minicamp today after not having thrown during the voluntary OTAs with reported shoulder tightness. We hadn't heard anything from the team about it itself. CJ said it's no big deal. DeMeco looks like he's just tired of the whole ordeal.
Oh, CJ threw today, right? All right, yeah.
This is where you become an NFL coach. Damn it! Show a little bit of agitation. Yes, DeMeco is a saint when it comes to handling things with patience and equanimity, if that's a word. And look, he gets tired of all the speculation. Look, they could have tamped down some of the speculation with a simple statement about what we all found out, which is, hey, look, he had shoulder tightness. The fact that CJ didn't have surgery, the fact that CJ says he's hit all his PRs, a lot of physical tests and what have you, he's in the best shape of his life, all of that. Yes, I do feel better about that. I do get nervous about a quarterback having tightness in his shoulder at all this time of year because it's something that could pop up during the regular season. And this is a season after which CJ had cited injuries as at least a partial explanation for some of his more erratic accuracy last year. So I will remain nervous. As many of you know, I'm just wired that way. Got a negative bias. I got head on a swivel all the time. DeMeco did expand on CJ and how they've been handling him this offseason.
CJ's a competitor, and last week CJ, he was adamant about going out and practicing. It just shows the type of person that CJ is. But for me, as a head coach, it's important for me to just make sure we're protecting him, making sure we're doing what's best for CJ, and not really worried about the outside opinions or other people. Nobody knows the information about our players more than me. And so I'm going to make sure I always do what's in the best interest of our players, first and foremost with their health and wellness. That's always on the forefront of my mind. And so that's why the decision was made about CJ. I think you guys saw him out throwing today. I think he looked pretty fine to me.
He really did. And I know a lot of you have seen these clips from Jonathan Alexander, but at least a few instances of CJ throwing. Nice little, I can't tell if the second foot got down there or not. Higgins with some nice catches today, reportedly, as well. Look, he looks like the same old CJ. We're not worried about it. The thing that I was hoping to hear at some point that I don't think I heard from CJ or DeMeco was just simply, hey, if this was the regular season, he would have been practicing and playing. They're going to be careful with any kind of throwing athlete. You got to be super careful about the shoulder and elbow, obviously. So at the end of the day, yes, I hope everybody is saying in October, Seth, you idiot, I can't believe you're just trying to get social media engagement and whatnot. No, I'm genuinely nervous about this. But for now, so far, so good. The fact that CJ looks so good physically otherwise is encouraging. And I think it's not the only thing that matters with quarterbacks. It's about 9th or 10th on the list, how athletically they're moving when you're a pure pocket passer like CJ is. But we know that his legs have become a part of his game, and just figuring out how to when to use them judiciously is the next step in his development. That's a lot easier if you consistently get good pass protection, so you don't feel like on any given play you're going to have to bail. Hopefully, we'll address that and see that, and we'll talk about the offensive line here in a little bit. Big addition, obviously, with Nick Chubb. DeMeco has asked if he has any concern about Chubb's injury history.
The Nick and the injury history, we understand his history, but we don't dwell on that. We're giving him an opportunity, and we'll see how it turns out for us here in Houston. One thing I can say from a guy who's come back from injury, it's just about the work you put in. You're really not the same, a few months out after injury. It takes time to get back when you can work out and not be worried about rehabbing and working out. Sometimes when you're rehabbing, you're just getting yourself to the starting line and you're not really ready to win the race. So I think when you take the time to recover and you can truly work out and put the work in and dedicate to your craft on playing the position really well, that's what helps you to have a good year that following year. And I think Nick has put himself in position to do that.
Yeah, I think the short answer that I would give if I were a completely blunt NFL head coach, which obviously I would not be, my answers would be way too long. I would go off on tangents. People would either love me or hate me depending on whether we were winning. But the short answer is simply, yeah, we're concerned about his injury history. We gave him a $2.5 million contract plus incentives. That is exactly how they feel about Nick Chubb. He had a devastating knee injury with multiple ligaments torn. The capsule this, the meniscus that. And it was on the same knee they had a devastating injury on in college. Now, the positive side of that is that, man, he came back from that devastating knee injury in college and became Nick Chubb in the NFL. Can he do it a second time at the age of 29? It's a huge unknown. Talking to people in Cleveland, the way Cleveland approached it this year, both the team and the fan base and the media covering it, was nobody really expected him to be prime Nick Chubb this year, because after an injury like that, it's a 2-year process, and year 2 hopefully is when you see that upside and a return to some of that explosiveness. We went through all of the best and worst case scenarios this morning on Payne and Pendergast, and the one, obviously best case scenario being, hey, he looks just as good as he ever did. Worst case scenario would be that they end up trading a Dameon Pierce because they've got such a crowded room, and then Nick Chubb ends up not being viable or being the same version that he was last year, where he averaged 3.3 yards per carry behind a really bad offensive line up there in Cleveland. It's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. I think, even if he's a short yardage back, where if maybe he doesn't regain that same explosiveness or breakaway speed in the open field, or quite the same agility, he's got great vision, he's got great strength and size. And, Marcus Allen was a guy that played the last 5-6 years of his career as a short yardage specialist. So at the very least, hopefully we get that out of him. And it's a $2.5 million contract. This is no risk. Agumbawale makes $500,000 less than Nick Chubb's base salary. And so it's very little risk. There's going to be guys that get cut from this roster that the Texans won't bat an eyelash about. They make more money than Nick Chubb is making. So it's low risk, extremely high upside. I'm excited about that. But yes, of course they're going to be concerned about his injury history. This is, what did I label this one?
It's been really exciting to see Jaden's growth.
Okay, this is about Jaden Higgins' growth and upside. And I'm going to say before we play this, if there's one thing that I really do take at face value after these last couple of years, I think DeMeco does not shy away from giving praise to guys that he's genuinely impressed by during mini camps, training camp, all of that. We heard it with Kamari Lassiter last year. Kamari Lassiter was taking reps with the ones. They gushed about him. The old school in you says like, oh, I don't know, it's too early for a rookie. But man, when he believes a guy shows that he's ready, he believes it. And we've seen it play out that way. So this is DeMeco on Jaden Higgins.
It's been really exciting to see Jaden's growth process in a short amount of time that he's been here. I've seen a guy who's steadily got better every single week. You've seen him make even more plays, and seeing him today, I mean, this is the most plays that he's made. And in our last week of camp, to see a rookie who's come in and showing right now that he could be an impact player for us, I think it means a lot. And we saw it as coaches watching this film from the college game, but I think it just means a lot to the entire team, the players, defensive players, other offensive players, actually seeing him thrive in practice, because I truly believe if you take practice the right way, deliberately, and you work at it, it'll show up in the games. And so it's really awesome to see the work that he's doing and the plays that he's making.
And by way of illustration, I would say he was asked about Ariante Ursary today, and Ursary, who is going to have some tough reps versus Will Anderson or Daniil Hunter and some of these guys. Any rookie offensive tackle would. There's a process and a curve there with the offensive tackles. But he talked about how Ariante has to learn how to be a pro, the way you approach meetings and everything. He's not just giving a blanket, oh yeah, this rookie's doing great. Oh yeah, we love this rookie. So the praise when he gives it is justified and genuine. I very much like that. With Jaden Higgins, it really, I think the fact that he has very solid hands, very secure hands. Solid hands sounds like stone hands. He's got very good hands. He's got size, which is there no matter what. And he's got a level of athleticism to him that in a lot of ways reminds me of Nico. Where Nico has really changed himself over the years is he's a big guy who can just sit down in his breaks on stop routes, can get bend and low to the ground in a way that not a lot of big guys can. Higgins isn't there yet, but that's something that develops over time with bigger guys. Andre Johnson was the same way. Andre Johnson was a pristine route runner as a big guy, but it takes some time. I think that Higgins, given everything that DeMeco is saying about him, it's just mostly the biggest obstacle for a rookie is, does the coach trust you? Can I trust him to go out and run the offense and to not be a burr in our side with mental errors and whatnot? It seems like there's a really good chance he will be that guy. Then you add into that the catch radius, some of the ways that CJ connected with him today already, that I think he's going to be an impact player. He's, at the very least, he's going to be a part of the offense. Whether he's an impact player or not, that's up to him and the offense and everybody else. But very excited about the two young wide receivers. Nothing but glowing reports in so many ways. Praise for a couple of second-year players here. The video got a little bit glitchy, but he's talking about Cade Stover here at the beginning.
Cade Stover, he's a guy who I think has grown to time. And just on one small detail for him is just, his separation at the top of the routes. So seeing Cade, a second-year player, take the steps to get better at the one thing, just his route definition at the top of his route, and seeing him make play after play like that. That's what excites me about the offseason. That's why I think it's really important these 8-9 weeks that we have with the players. If you attack it with the right mindset, you can actually get better, enhance your game, and you don't see as big of a jump in a lot of guys. It really is that first and second year. That's where you see a jump, and that's where I think Cade Stover is taking a jump, and also Kalen Bullock. Kalen has done an outstanding job, this offseason of, we know Kalen for tracking the football, making interceptions, but the thing that I'm very pleased with the way Coach Adegoke has worked with him just on his tracking, putting himself in really good body position to make tackles. We're not tackling or being physical, but he's doing those small things that's going to set him up to make those tackles when we put the pads on. So those small highlights are really huge for me, and we have multiple guys who are getting a lot better in their craft.
Okay, that's lots of tackle there, but feel really good about Cade Stover and Kalen Bullock and the improvement they've made. When it comes to Bullock, I'm glad that DeMeco talked about what you can work on even though you're in no pads, because people will always ask me when I complain about the Texans tackling, well, how much can you really do to improve that? They haven't tackled in NFL practices since God knows when, maybe the 1960s, ever since really probably whenever there stopped being so many war veterans in the NFL. That's when they stopped. That's when we got soft as a league. But you can't. It's dumb to tackle in the NFL in practice. So how do you work on tackling? It really is about the approach, the angles, really stressing all the technique that you can without actually having collisions. All of that is just something you have to focus on. And with Kalen, we see that in so many ways. Last year with him, man, he was just one tick short in so many instances of making a huge play or an interception or a tackle. And it's about geometry more than anything else. It's about taking the right angles, understanding how to use the sideline to your advantage. The sideline is a second tackler because you just and this is where it helps growing up on a farm. Cade Stover, he doesn't play defense now, but maybe on special teams. Trying to round up heifers, you got to learn how to use the fence, as your ally, and you learn how to take the right angle and everything. Very few farm kids anymore in the NFL. When it comes to Cade Stover, I liked hearing about the separation at the top of the route, because you look at Cade Stover and he's not as athletic as, say, a George Kittle. He's going to have to get it done with his route running. And at the top of the route, especially with tight ends, you can take advantage the same way a tackler can take advantage of the sideline. Tight ends can take advantage of their position on the field and what they do at the top of their routes, where they might extend it vertical or turn it into an out or an in or whatever, and really work safeties. Travis Kelce is a master at this. It just working guys with his body language, with his eyes, everything else. And he ends up getting wide open, even as we know in the playoffs, as a decrepit old man, basically for much of the regular season. When he dials in the playoffs, he gets all this separation without necessarily the same athleticism that he used to have, because he's savvy about it. And Stover's a guy who's just now learning how to play tight end, really. He had 2 years of it in college and then last year as a rookie. So excited to hear him say that about those two guys. This is this is DeMeco on just assessing the offensive line in general this time of year, because I know and I understand there's some negative reports out there about the offensive line today. I get it. We're all going to be nervous. I'm going to be nervous about any kind of soreness in CJ's shoulder. I'm going to remain naturally nervous about the offensive line until I actually see a finished product out there that I like. But this is DeMeco when asked about the offensive line.
The hard thing about offseason program is the offensive D-line, offensive line, defensive line. There's a lot of give and take that goes that goes with that territory there. You want to be as safe as possible in how we're working. So it's nothing to really stand out about the O-line, D-line, because we got to put pads on, right? For the big guys up front, they play a physical game. We won't know truly what we have until we put pads on, until we see these guys in training camp, see them in game action, actually get their job done.
Okay, so I tried to do something which does not come naturally to me. I tried to make an excuse for offensive linemen today, and I tweeted out something along the lines of, man, you know, in a lot of ways, the offensive linemen are at a disadvantage when you're in no pads. And, you know, I try to give them a break, especially the rookies, when it comes to stuff this time of year. I was immediately DM'd and messaged by two different retired defensive linemen that told me I was full of crap. They were angry with me, or at least disgruntled, jovially. So I'm like, hey man, these guys don't have to worry about a power rush. They can just get back to their point in their pass set. Look, maybe part of this is me just like trying to stay calm about the offensive line and recognizing that right now, this time of year, especially when you've got rookies out there or young players going against Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson, they're going to get beat. Also, they're learning a new offense. They're learning their new responsibilities, potentially new techniques, because Cole Popovich was just the assistant offensive line coach last year. He's got to coach what Chris Strausser is telling him to. He might have differed. He might have disagreed. Any of you, when you've ever had a job where you feel like, there's a better freaking way to do this, there's only so much you can do when there's a hierarchy. So, I'm not optimistic. I'm not pessimistic. I'm just going to wait and see what happens when the pads come on. So I'll do some more of these DeMeco responses later. I apologize. I can't get to any of the comments right now, but please like and subscribe if you have not already. And everybody have a great rest